Yuyudo wonders why things turned out this way as he and Tsuyu play a video game side by side. He glances over at her, still confused. Tsuyu remains focused on the game, her fingers clicking away at the controller. He admits to himself that he doesn't understand what's happening at all. An hour ago, the doorbell rang. Yuyudo opened the door, wondering who it could be. He found Tsuyu standing there, and he correctly guessed she was his sister Chai's friend. Before Yuyudo could finish suggesting she wait inside, Tsuyu pardoned her intrusion and entered. Yuyudo was taken aback by how quickly she responded. Yuyudo offered her a glass of tea. Feeling the awkwardness, Yuyudo suggested they find something to do while waiting for Chai. He realized there wasn't much to do in the room. Just then, Tsuyu revealed a video game console she had with her. Returning to the present, the score shows 5 wins for Tsuyu and 5 losses for a bewildered Yuyudo. Chai announces her return, noticing the extra pair of shoes at the entrance. She bursts into the room, energetically welcoming Tsuyu. Yuyudo tells Chai not to keep her friend waiting, and Tsuyu says she should get going. Chai whispers to Tsuyu, asking what she and her brother were doing and if they had fun. Tsuyu quietly replies that they were playing games. As Tsuyu nods in response to her questions, Chai thinks about how easy she is to read. Yuyudo reflects that his little sister's friend is a very quiet person. He pours drinks for them in the kitchen. When Tsuyu appears, he asks if she came for the drinks, and she simply nods, confirming his observation that he can't figure out what she's thinking. Yuyudo asks Tsuyu if it's alright for him to enter his sister's room, noting again how little she talks. He announces his entry to Chai. He enters, followed by Tsuyu carrying her own drink. Chai cheerfully greets them both and thanks her brother for the tea. Yuyudo questions if she's even studying properly, making him do all the work. Chai retorts that she needs his help with her studies, leaving Yuyudo confused. Chai prods her brother, saying that Tsuyu wants his help too, which Tsuyu confirms with a nod. Yuyudo sighs and agrees to help, but only for a little while. He sits down with them as Chai diligently works on her assignment. He's surprised to see that she's actually taking her studies seriously. Suddenly, Chai calls out for her big brother's help, claiming to be stuck. Yuyudo identifies the problem and explains the formula needed to solve it. He leans in closer to explain the solution, and Tsuyu watches him, blushing slightly. When he asks if she got it, Tsuyu snaps out of a daze. She apologizes and asks him to repeat himself, and he tells her to focus. Chai triumphantly declares that she's finished with her work. She then announces she's going to the restroom, much to Yuyudo's chagrin. Yuyudo realizes they are alone again. He asks Tsuyu if she's tired and she nods. Another awkward silence falls between them. Hiding her face behind her notebook, Tsuyu thanks Yuyudo for teaching her. Yuyudo quickly says it was no big deal and invites her to come over whenever she likes. Tsuyu announces that she should be getting home. Just then, Chai returns from the restroom. Chai notices Tsuyu's flushed face and asks if something good happened. Tsuyu shyly admits that she managed to thank him properly. Delighted, Chai asks for a hug. Chai gives her friend a tight squeeze, calling her a cute little creature. Chai enthusiastically declares the start of their strategy meeting. Feeling slightly embarrassed, she gets to the agenda for their meeting. She tells Tsuyu that the plan is for her to return home with Yuyudo, leaving Tsuyu shocked. Tsuyu gets lost in her daydreams about the idea. She gets incredibly flustered. Chai asks if she's embarrassed, calling her a late bloomer. Chai warns her that if she keeps hesitating, she'll never move forward with him. Chai tells Yuyudo she will let him see Tsuyu off, confusing him. He asks why she isn't joining them. Chai suddenly claims she's not feeling well, but Yuyudo doesn't believe her. She pushes them out the door, insisting they go without her. Outside, Yuyudo sighs and apologizes for his sister's behavior. Tsuyu gets a text from Chai, who urges her to take this chance to hold his hand. Tsuyu thinks about his hand. The thought makes her blush intensely. Yuyudo asks for directions, and Tsuyu nods to confirm the path. She looks at him with a determined, blushing face. She nervously reaches out, attempting to take his hand. In her nervousness, she misses his hand and grabs the back of his shirt instead. She follows him, holding on, her face flushed with emotion. They arrive at their destination, standing in silence. As Yuyudo turns to her, she flinches. He lets go of her hand. Distracted, Tsuyu walks straight into a utility pole with a loud bunk. Yuyudo reacts to the loud sound, asking if she's okay. Tsuyu reassures him that she is fine. He leans in, still worried, and asks if she's sure. He sees her teary-eyed and blushing, which only confuses him more. Tsuyu apologizes and tells Yuyudo that he can leave her here. Yuyudo is a bit surprised by her sudden stop. He figures it's fine since she lives close by. Meanwhile, Chai receives a message on her phone. It's from Tsuyu and Chai replies, telling her she did a good job. Chai calls Tsuyu, eagerly asking how it went and if she held hands with him. Tsuyu hesitates, then starts to explain that she grabbed his. She finishes her sentence, clarifying that she grabbed his shirt, shocking Chai. In the kitchen, Chai and Tsuyu are ready to bake. With all the ingredients and the recipe assembled, Chai enthusiastically suggests they begin. Declaring that it's time to make cookies, Chai asks for their first course of action, prompting an unexpectedly intense reaction from Tsuyu, who brandishes a knife. Looking over the recipe together, Chai realizes they need to make the dough first, so the knife isn't needed yet. Chai reads the list of initial ingredients from the recipe book. As they prepare to mix, Tsuyu quietly thinks to herself that she'll save some of the cookies for Yuyudo. Chai reads that the secret trick is to add love, much to Tsuyu's silent surprise. Tsuyu earnestly kneads the dough with all her might. Watching her friend, Chai thinks to herself how easy Tsuyu is to rid. Wiping sweat from her brow, Chai declares the dough is finally ready. She announces it's time to roll out the dough and use the cookie cutters, noting they have plenty to choose from. Tsuyu silently spots a heart-shaped one and decides to use it. She picks up the heart-shaped cutter, clutching it thoughtfully. Chai immediately notices the heart-shaped cutter and teases Tsuyu, asking if it's for her big brother. Tsuyu becomes flustered and denies it, while Chai grins, finding her friend's reaction suspicious. Tsuyu threatens to get angry, but Chai just coos that an angry Tsuyu is cute too, before playfully asking for forgiveness. Chai glances at her friend with a knowing look. Tsuyu tenderly holds the heart-shaped cookie cutter, a faint blush on her cheeks. Watching her, Chai smiles to herself. She thinks that perhaps her suspicions about her friend's feelings aren't just in her head. Chai notices that the knot on Tsuyu's apron has come loose and offers to tighten it for her. Tsuyu quietly thanks her. Yuyudo arrives home, noticing an extra pair of shoes and realizing his sister has a friend over. Chai greets him at the door, welcoming him back. Yuyudo says hello to Tsuyu, as Chai excitedly announces they've just finished baking cookies and invites him to join them. He comments on how delicious they look, and Chai proudly states that she made them with Tsuyu. Yuyudo says he'll wash his hands and asks Chai to serve the tea. In the kitchen, Yuyudo looks for the guest cups. When Tsuyu appears, he asks if she wants to help, and she nods in response. He confirms with her that black tea is fine before turning to his sister. He asks Chai if she's okay with black tea too, and she replies that she'd like milk with hers, all while trying to sneak a cookie. Chai notices Tsuyu was trying to eat a cookie just now. Yuyudo asks Tsuyu to hold out her hands. He places a few pieces of candy in them as a thank you for her help. He tells her it's all he has for now, but promises a proper treat next time. Tsuyu whispers her thanks, but Yuyudo doesn't hear, just as Chai calls out wondering what's taking so long. Later that night in her room, Tsuyu searches for the meaning behind being given candy. Her phone screen reveals that it signifies affection, that the giver likes her. Blushing furiously at the revelation, she becomes so flustered that her phone slips from her grasp. The candies from Yuyudo seem to sparkle as she is overcome with happiness. On her way, Tsuyu Amiya pauses as her attention is caught by a small black cat which greets her with a soft meow. Tsuyu rustles through her bag, looking for something to entice the cat. The cat, surrounded by various cat toys she's laid out, simply stares at her. The intense standoff continues, with both of them locked in a silent, rumbling confrontation. After a moment of thought, Tsuyu seems to have an idea. She triumphantly pulls out a Nico Jirashi, a fluffy foxtail toy. She crouches down and presents the toy to the wary cat. She begins to wave it back and forth, hoping to capture its interest. The cat seems interested, reaching for the toy. It responds with a curious meow. Tsuyu's face lights up with a delighted smile at the interaction. From a distance, Yuyudo spots her crouching by a bench. He wonders what she's doing as the cat is hidden from his view. He calls out to a surprised Tsuyu. Yuyudo approaches her from behind, asking what she's doing. She explains that she found a stray cat. He's amused to learn she was playing with it, and silently marvels at the fact that she carries cat toys with her. The cat completely ignores Tsuyu's toy, dropping it to the ground, and walks right up to Yuyudo, rubbing against his leg. Tsuyu can only watch, a gloomy cloud forming over her. Yuyudo laughs, petting the cat and calling it a bold one. She looks on in shocked disbelief. Yuyudo continues to gently pet the friendly cat. He notices her silence and turns to call her name. As Tsuyu watches him, her face flushes as she imagines his hand on her own head instead. He wonders what's going on with her. Seeing that she's completely spaced out, Yuyudo waves a hand in front of her face to get her attention. He asks if she's alright since she wasn't responding. Snapping out of her trance, a startled Tsuyu quickly assures him that she is fine. The cat wanders between them and decides to climb. It settles comfortably right on top of Tsuyu's head. The two sit in a moment of stunned silence. The sight is so unexpected that Yuyudo bursts out laughing, saying it was just too cute. After the cat climbs down, Yuyudo suggests they should head back and Tsuyu nods. Noticing her hair is all messed up, he reaches out and gently pats her head to fix it, causing her to blush furiously. Yuyudo quickly apologizes, worried he overstepped. Tsuyu quietly assures him that she doesn't dislike it. Relieved, Yuyudo accepts her response. As they prepare to leave, Yuyudo tells the cat he'll bring it food next time. Watching him, Tsuyu is lost in her feelings again. She whispers that he's unfair, but when he asks what she said, she stays silent. Yuyudo, his sister Chai and her friend Tsuyu arrive at a gaming center. Chai is immediately captivated by the sights and sounds, excitedly pointing things out, while Yuyudo cautiously reminds them not to wander off. Tsuyu, equally amazed, looks around in wonder. Inside, Yuyudo points out the variety of games available, from crane games to arcade cabinets. Chai and Tsuyu look around, impressed by the wide selection. Yuyudo asks Tsuyu what she would like to play, catching her attention. Her gaze falls upon a crane game with a new mascot character plushie inside. Chai eagerly challenges Tsuyu to a match to see who can win the prize first. Yuyudo, sensing his sister's overconfidence, thinks it sounds fun but wonders if she'll be okay. Chai declares she'll go first, and Yuyudo decides to step back and watch. After they fail, Yuyudo asks what they were thinking, seeing how much money they spent trying to win. Chai notes that Tsuyu is usually wise with her money, making her desire for the plushie clear. Yuyudo wonders to himself if she really wanted it that badly. He sees the two girls still fretting over their loss. Chai suddenly remembers her brother's talent for crane games and insists he give it a try. Yuyudo admits that while he used to be good, these new games are different. However, one look at Tsuyu's pleading face convinces him to give it a shot. Chai cheers enthusiastically. Yuyudo successfully wins the plushie and hands it over to Tsuyu. Chai proudly proclaims that she knew her big brother could do it, while he mutters that it took him 10 tries. Tsuyu shyly thanks him for the prize. As Yuyudo decides to take a rest, Chai is already challenging Tsuyu to their next battle. An hour passes. Tsuyu is visibly gloomy, while Chai smiles triumphantly. Chai explains to her brother that she won all the games they played, from air hockey to fighting games. She cheerfully points out how bad Tsuyu is at games. Not one to accept defeat, a determined Tsuyu demands one more game. Chai notes that they have already played most of the games in the arcade. Tsuyu spots a quiz game and nods towards it. She confidently declares that she won't lose this one because Chai is stupid. Completely enraged, Chai glares at Tsuyu, asking if she really thinks she's stupid. She accepts the challenge, declaring it's just what she wanted. The game ends in a one-sided victory for Tsuyu, leaving Chai covering her face in defeat. The final score shows Tsuyu with 86 points to Chai's 32. Chai accuses Tsuyu of being a coward for crushing her at a game she's good at. Tsuyu calmly states that a win is a win, and that's just how it is. An electric tension fills the air between the two rivals. Refusing to accept defeat, Chai declares she has one choice left, activating Big Bro Fight mode. She demands that Yuyudo go and avenge her. Chai gets Tsuyu's agreement for the match, who simply nods. Dragged into the rivalry, Yuyudo nervously asks Tsuyu to go easy on him. The two of them now sit at the quiz machine, ready to face off. Yuyudo tells Tsuyu she can't use the same settings as before and needs to choose a different one. He instructs her to choose the continuous mode, but she accidentally selects the wrong option. Tsuyu asks for a break, saying it was a small mistake, while Yuyudo urges her to stop getting angry and just select the right mode. The pressure and Yuyudo's frustration leave Tsuyu teary-eyed and silent. She tries to hide her face, feeling overwhelmed. After finally getting the settings correct, Yuyudo notices her state and gently asks if she is okay before they begin their match. She quietly nods in response. On the way back home, Yuyudo walks with a content smile, while Tsuyu happily hugs the plushie he won for her. Chai follows behind, grinning mischievously. In the science lab, Chai spots some materials and asks Tsuyu if middle schoolers still make handmade bracelets. Tsuyu, looking through a box of equipment, learns from Chai that girls used to give them to their crushes. Their teacher, looking at something on his computer, remarks that the bracelets look cute. He then adds with a gloomy expression that he never received one, much to Chai's dismay. Chai teases her teacher, suggesting he must not have been very popular, which he laughingly admits is a comment that might make him cry. Chai finds an online tutorial for making stylish bracelets, thinking it looks easier than the instructions suggest. She excitedly decides they should buy some string and try making them, while Tsuyu nervously clenches her phone. Chai suddenly realizes they first need to ask her brother what his 3 favorite colors are. The suggestion throws Tsuyu into a panic, as she stammers that they haven't even asked him yet. Yuyudo announces his arrival as he gets home. Chai quickly instructs a nervous Tsuyu to only ask for his favorite colors and nothing else, declaring it's go time. With a hard push, Chai sends Tsuyu stumbling out into the hallway. Yuyudo is surprised to see a startled Tsuyu standing right in front of him. They exchange a quick, awkward greeting. An uncomfortable silence follows as Tsuyu sweats nervously. Yuyudo internally panics, wondering what he's supposed to do in this situation. Yuyudo is completely bewildered, wondering where Chai went and what is happening. From behind a slightly ajar door, an excited Chai silently urges Tsuyu to go for it. Yuyudo has no idea what Tsuyu wants from him. He stammers, trying to figure out what to say. Finally, with a notepad and pen in hand, Tsuyu nervously asks him to tell her his favorite colors. Yuyudo is surprised by the question about his favorite colors. After some thought, he figures they are probably green or blue. He then asks her why she wanted to know. Tsuyu hesitates, remembering Chai's instruction not to mention the bracelets. She playfully puts a finger to her lips and tells him it's a secret. She thanks him politely, leaving a puzzled Yuyudo to tell her it's no problem. Chai reflects that they managed to find out Yuyudo's favorite colors and get the right strings. However, both girls are finding the process very difficult, as shown by their messy attempts. Chai observes that Tsuyu is bad at this kind of craft and asks if she is doing okay. Tsuyu reassures her friend that she is fine. Tsuyu looks at Chai with determination, stating that she has to finish this herself or it won't be meaningful. Chai had offered her help if anything was troubling, which Tsuyu had accepted. Alone, she texts her frustrations, admitting how tough it is and that her work isn't good enough no matter how hard she tries. Feeling discouraged and with tears in her eyes, Tsuyu questions if she can really make one. Suddenly, her phone vibrates on the desk. It's a message from Chai, encouraging her to pour her feelings into the bracelet and to take it easy. Chai's words give Tsuyu a renewed sense of purpose. With newfound determination, she resolves to finish what she started. She sends a quick text to Chai, thanking her for the encouragement. Tsuyu stands by her bookshelf, buttoning up her school uniform for the day ahead. From the doorway, a family member calls out, letting her know that breakfast is ready. At school, after a tiring physical education class, Chai is completely drained and slumped over her desk, while Tsuyu comments on how awful the class was. Tsuyu asks her friend to hold out her hand. She places a small, neatly wrapped package into Chai's palm. Chai is surprised to learn that Tsuyu finished making her a bracelet. Chai excitedly opens the gift, admiring how well the bracelet turned out. She then reveals that she also made a matching one for Tsuyu. Tsuyu shyly thanks her friend for the gift. Their classmates debate the best place to wear them, with one suggesting their legs. Chai decides to wear hers as an anklet, quickly tying it on. As Tsuyu puts on her own anklet, Chai asks what she's doing. Chai happily shows off their matching anklets. Tsuyu then invites Chai to her place, which Chai accepts. Chai asks if Tsuyu made one for her brother, and Tsuyu quietly confirms that she did. While walking home, Chai brings up the challenge of actually giving the bracelet to Yuyudo. She teases Tsuyu, reminding her how nervous she got just asking for his favorite color. Tsuyu insists that she won't let her nerves get the better of her this time. She tries to build up her confidence, insisting she can do it if she tries. Chai remains playfully skeptical, noting how some people's minds go blank just from looking at her brother. As if on cue, Chai spots her brother, Yuyudo. He scolds his sister for not watching where she's going. The unexpected encounter short-circuits Tsuyu's brain, and she freezes when Yuyudo calls her name. Seizing the moment, Chai cheerfully announces that Tsuyu has a gift for him. Tsuyu's mind goes into a dizzying panic. Despite her panic, Tsuyu manages to greet him. Gathering every ounce of her courage, a blushing Tsuyu holds out the small package to a surprised Yuudo, telling him it's a bracelet. Stunned, he takes the gift and stammers out a thank you. Immediately after he takes it, Tsuyu blushes intensely and dashes off, leaving Yuudo calling after her in confusion. He looks down at the gift, still trying to process what just happened. Chai simply tells her brother to keep it. Later, back at school, Yuudo is with his friends. One of them spots the bracelet on his wrist and asks him about it. His friend recognizes it as a friendship bracelet and asks about it. He asks who gave it to him. Another friend teases him, assuming it was a gift from a girl. They jokingly conspire to bury him out of jealousy, prompting Yuudo to quickly explain that his sister and her friend gave it to him. A small note reveals that Chai had actually finished her own bracelet much earlier and was patiently waiting for Tsuyu to finish hers. Tsuyu thinks to herself that she wants to tell Chai about it. Chai helps her teacher carry supplies to the chemistry lab. She then presents him with a gift. She explains it's a friendship bracelet as a thank you, recalling that he'd never received one before. Overcome with emotion, the teacher starts weeping, promising to treasure it carefully. Chai, embarrassed, just tells him to wear it. After a busy shift at his part-time job, Yuudo Hidaka clocks out for the day. His boss stops him on the way out. He gifts him a box of manju from a recent family trip. Before Yuudo can leave, his boss offers him something else. Later, Yuudo presents his sister Chai with aquarium tickets. He explains that his boss gave them to him since his own daughter wanted to go to an amusement park instead. Chai is thrilled and immediately asks if she can invite Tsuyu. Yuudo agrees, realizing this is a good chance to thank Tsuyu for the bracelet she gave him. Chai quickly texts Tsuyu, who confirms she wants to go. Worried, Chai asks her brother if he got enough tickets for all of them, and Yuudo reassures her that his boss gave him exactly 3. At school, Chai and Tsuyu are buzzing with excitement about their upcoming visit. Tsuyu mentions it's been a year since her last visit. They excitedly list all the animals they want to see, from otters to jellyfish. Both girls are especially excited to see the penguins. Tsuyu admits how much she loves aquariums. Chai grins, telling Tsuyu she's even more excited now that she's coming. Tsuyu happily shares the sentiment. Tsuyu is surprised to learn Chai hasn't been since she was a small child, while she herself goes annually. Hearing this, Chai confidently declares she'll take the lead on their trip. During their lunch break, Chai enthusiastically plans out their day, suggesting the dolphin and penguin shows. She promises to give Tsuyu the best time of her life, and Tsuyu thanks her. Their planning session is cut short by the school bell, signaling the end of lunch. On the day of the aquarium trip, Tsuyu is dressed and ready to go. Her phone pings with a notification. She glances at the date circled on her calendar. At the aquarium entrance, Yuudo and Tsuyu stand together. However, Chai is nowhere to be seen, and Yuudo wonders how the situation turned out this way. Yuudo internally panics, wondering how this happened. He recalls how Chai caught a cold that morning and insisted they go on without her, though he worries Tsuyu is uncomfortable. He offers to reschedule the trip for another time. However, Tsuyu seems lost in thought. She asks what he said, but he dismisses it, and they agree to head inside, beginning their unexpected aquarium date. Chai lies sick in bed, feeling unlucky to have caught a cold on the day of their trip to the aquarium. She tosses in bed, disappointed she couldn't go but hoping Tsuyu is enjoying herself. She calls out to her father for a cut apple, and he readily agrees from another room. At the aquarium entrance, Yuudo asks a nervous Tsuyu if they should head in. Tsuyu receives a text from Chai, who apologizes for not being there and tells her to have fun with Yuudo. As Tsuyu looks at her phone, Yuudo asks if she received a text from his sister. Chai's follow-up message insists that they enjoy her share of the fun as well. Tsuyu quietly confirms that Chai texted her. Yuudo asks what Chai's text was about, guessing it had to do with enjoying her share of the fun. He resolves that they simply need to enjoy themselves to the fullest today. Tsuyu adds that Chai was probably the most excited one for their trip. With renewed determination, Tsuyu looks up from her phone and declares that they should have fun for Chai as well. After a moment of silence, Yuudo agrees and tells her it's time to get going. They arrive at a massive tank, where a whale shark and countless smaller fish swim peacefully, leaving Tsuyu captivated. Yuudo remarks that no matter how many times he sees it, the main aquarium is always cool, and Tsuyu nods in agreement. Tsuyu marvels at the incredible sight, but also wonders aloud if the sardines get eaten in the large tank. He asks Tsuyu if there's anything she wants to look at. She excitedly replies that she wants to see the jellyfish, and Yudo plans their route accordingly. They walk past various fish exhibits on their way to the jellyfish. They continue through an underwater tunnel, surrounded by sea life. Noticing she's lagging, Yudo asks Tsuyu if she's tired, but she quietly insists she is fine. He tells her they're almost there, spotting the entrance to the jellyfish exhibit just around the corner. The jellyfish drift gracefully in their illuminated tank. Tsuyu is mesmerized by the ethereal sight. Yudo points out a ramp and tells her to be careful, and she thanks him. Yudo remembers that Tsuyu likes jellyfish. To his surprise, she frantically shakes her head, denying it. She explains that it was Chai who wanted to see the jellyfish together with her. Yudo listens, beginning to understand. He explains that his mother and Chai both love the jellyfish and their family visits the aquarium every summer. Yudo muses that Chai was surely looking forward to showing Tsuyu the aquarium she loves so much. Tsuyu looks at the jellyfish with a new appreciation. She softly says that she's glad they were able to come today. Tsuyu says that being with him has helped her learn more about Chai. With a bright smile, she tells him she would like to visit again. She clarifies that next time, all three of them should come together. Yudo is touched by the suggestion and wholeheartedly agrees it's a great idea. Yudo begins with an apology for the situation. He explains that he brought a homemade lunch intended for 3 people, not knowing his sister Chai wouldn't be able to make it. He tells Tsuyu not to worry if she can't finish all the food. Tsuyu, however, gazes at the food and says it looks delicious, asking if she can begin eating. Yudo agrees, and Tsuyu announces it's time to eat. About an hour before their meal, Yudo realized how late it was getting. He had turned to Tsuyu to ask what she wanted to eat. He suggested they could eat at one of the aquarium's food courts or a nice cafe he remembered nearby. Tsuyu noticed his hesitation and asked if there was a problem. Yudo began to admit that he had actually brought something. Tsuyu, impressed by the spread, asks if he made it all himself. He clarifies that his mother helped and offers to treat her some other time, commenting that the food tastes great. Yudo apologizes profusely for forgetting their plan to eat at the cafe, but Tsuyu insists it's fine. Tsuyu takes a bite of the sandwich, her expression turning gloomy for a moment. Yudo worries that he might have hurt her feelings. However, Tsuyu suddenly brightens, declaring that the egg sandwich is extremely delicious. Yudo reveals that egg sandwiches are Chai's favorite, noting with a laugh that her and Tsuyu's tastes are similar. Tsuyu quietly mumbles in agreement. She feels a wave of relief, happy about the connection. A moment later, she's startled and flustered. She blurts out for him to forget what she just said, but Yudo is completely puzzled. After they've eaten everything, Yudo says it was a nice meal. Yudo asks what she wants to do now and if there's anything she missed. Tsuyu sits quietly for a moment before having an idea. Their next stop is the aquarium's gift shop. Yudo turns his thoughts to finding a souvenir, wondering what Chai would like. He suggests they split up to cover more ground in the large store, and Tsuyu nods in agreement. They agree to meet up later. After successfully finding gifts for people from his part-time job, Yudo is still stumped on what to get Chai. He looks around, wondering where Tsuyu went. Tsuyu makes a grand entrance, revealing her find. Yudo stares blankly at the strange plushie she's holding. He asks what on earth it is. She introduces it as Mr. Gently, confident that it's the perfect souvenir for Chai. Yudo is still baffled by the plushie, but Tsuyu explains it's a gentleman jellyfish. Having found nothing himself, he decides to go with her choice. On the train ride home, Yudo notices that there are plenty of empty seats. He thanks Tsuyu for coming with him and says he had fun, then asks what her favorite part of the aquarium was. When she doesn't answer, he calls her name and realizes she's falling asleep. Tsuyu rubs her eyes, clearly exhausted from the day's activities. Yudo watches her with a gentle expression. He tells her she must be tired and should rest, promising to wake her when they reach their stop. She mumbles her thanks as she starts to fall asleep. Watching her, Yudo yawns, feeling the day's fatigue catch up to him as well. The rhythmic sounds of the train fill the quiet car. Tsuyu leans against Yudo, fast asleep while clutching her souvenir. He closes his eyes, dozing off as well. The train continues its journey through the evening. Itsuki checks her phone before setting off. Walking through a modern plaza, she soon finds herself alone, a smirk on her face. Her confidence fades with the realization that she has completely forgotten the way back. Chai dramatically presents a peculiar souvenir. Tsuyu recalls Chai mentioning she had something to give her. Chai explains she bought the souvenir at the aquarium, leaving Tsuyu bewildered. Tsuyu can only comment on its unique taste, as Chai introduces the plushie as Mr. Gently, a gentleman who works behind the scenes. Tsuyu thanks Chai for the gift, and Chai is delighted that she likes it. Chai then playfully asks how the date went. Tsuyu becomes incredibly flustered, insisting it wasn't a date. Sidestepping the issue, Chai asks if she had fun, and Tsuyu quietly admits she did. Chai cheerfully mentions that her brother probably knows the place well from her dragging him there every year. Blushing, Tsuyu confirms that she had fun as well. Chai admits she was worried Tsuyu might have collapsed from nervousness. Tsuyu says she's actually glad she got a fever that day. Chai listens, unconvinced. Tsuyu explains that while going with Yuuto was fun, she's certain it would have been even better if Chai had been there too. Looking at Chai with a gentle smile, Tsuyu suggests they go to the aquarium together next time. Chai enthusiastically agrees, promising to give her a tour 100 times more enjoyable than her brother's. After bidding Chai farewell, Tsuyu starts her walk home. She walks alone, lost in thought. She replays Chai's teasing questions about the date in her mind. Suddenly, her thoughts are interrupted when a voice calls out to her. The girl from before, Itsuki, appears, holding the lost item and saying Tsuyu dropped it. Tsuyu panics, realizing a keychain is missing from her bag. Tsuyu gratefully thanks Itsuki for returning it. Itsuki comments on the strange keychain, asking if it's a gift. Tsuyu confirms it is, but clarifies it's not rare in the way Itsuki might be thinking. Tsuyu explains that a friend gave her the keychain. Itsuki notices the strap is cut and offers to perform a quick fix. Tsuyu watches, surprised by the sudden offer. Itsuki deftly reattaches the charm, telling Tsuyu not to worry about the details of her temporary fix. Itsuki hands the keychain back, warning Tsuyu to be more careful with something so important. Tsuyu shyly thanks her again. Itsuki spots someone in the distance and waves. Yuuto calls out Itsuki's name. He recognizes her, calling out a greeting. Yuuto remarks that it's been a while, but Itsuki immediately grabs his bag. She's annoyed that he was late, and he explains a teacher held him up. She retorts that he should prioritize her over teachers, much to his disbelief. Yuuto is confused, thinking she wasn't moving in until tomorrow, but Itsuki clarifies she's just doing an inspection today. Watching them, Tsuyu holds her repaired keychain, thinking to herself that as a childhood friend, she'll be counting on him. In the classroom, the teacher announces that summer vacation starts next week. He offers some final words of caution, telling the students to be careful and not follow strangers. Tsuyu thinks to herself that he's such a worrywart. With a final reminder about homework, the bell rings, dismissing the class for the holiday. Chai playfully leaps onto a surprised Tsuyu. Another classmate observes how close the two of them always are. Chai greets her friends, Kasukumo Toko and Kei's Hitaki, as they arrive at the classroom door. Chai asks what brings them to her classroom. She then reveals with a grin that she was the one who called them over. Chai excitedly lists all the classic summer activities, from festivals and fireworks to mountains, before making her grand announcement. The other girls look on, slightly stunned by her energy. Chai throws her arms up in celebration, announcing that this summer vacation, they will all be enjoying the sea. When her dramatic declaration is met with silence, Taki explains they didn't want to interrupt because she seemed so into it. Toko voices her concern about going to the beach by themselves, but Chai confidently dismisses it as no problem at all. Chai reveals her plan: her big brother can be their guardian for the trip. She turns to Tsuyu for her approval. Tsuyu shyly agrees to the plan. Her friends gush over how cute her reaction is, and Tsuyu thinks to herself that summer is finally here. As Chai and Tsuyu walk home, Chai buzzes with excitement about their upcoming beach trip, rattling off a list of activities. Suddenly she stops and asks Tsuyu an important question: does she have a swimsuit? Tsuyu confirms she has a swimsuit, but clarifies it's her school one. Chai is horrified at the thought of Tsuyu wearing her school uniform to the beach. Tsuyu quickly clarifies that she wasn't planning on wearing it. She explains that she doesn't fit into her old one anymore. Blushing slightly, she admits that she wants to go buy a new swimsuit. Chai enthusiastically promises to help choose the cutest swimsuit they can find. Suddenly Tsuyu stops in her tracks, her soul seemingly leaving her body. Chai is shocked to see her brother Yuuto with their childhood friend Itsuki. Itsuki greets Chai casually, having not seen her in a long time. Itsuki asks Chai when she came back, and Chai replies that it was a while ago. Meanwhile, Yuuto greets Tsuyu. Itsuki asks if Chai plans on moving to the area, which Chai confirms. Tsuyu shyly greets Itsuki back. Itsuki's eyes widen in recognition, exclaiming that Tsuyu is the little girl from before. Itsuki expresses her surprise that the girl she met happened to be Chai's best friend. Chai proudly praises Tsuyu, asking if she isn't cute, and Itsuki agrees. Tsuyu timidly thanks Itsuki for her help the other day. Itsuki smiles and tells Tsuyu not to worry about it, declaring that they're friends now. Yudo asks if everyone is okay with tea. Tsuyu surprises him by requesting black coffee, while Chai asks for milk coffee. Itsuki eagerly accepts Yudo's offer to help. Itsuki reflects on the fact that Chai now has a best friend. She comments on how much Chai has changed over the past 2 years. Itsuki teases Chai about having been a crybaby, and Chai flusteredly insists that she's fine now and doesn't cry anymore. Itsuki asks Chai if she's having fun now. Chai quietly confirms that she is. With a bright, beaming smile, Chai exclaims that it's super-duper fun. Itsuki playfully ruffles Chai's hair, joking that it feels like Chai was snatched away from her. Itsuki then turns her attention to the quiet Tsuyu and asks if she wants to know more about her friend. Yudo explains that Itsuki is their childhood friend and like an older sister to Chai, which is why they're so excited. He apologizes to Tsuyu, feeling bad that her visit has been interrupted. Tsuyu reassures him that it's fine and not to worry. She then excuses herself to use the bathroom. Feeling like an outsider amidst the reunion, Tsuyu stands quietly in the hallway. On the day of the planned shopping trip, Tsuyu meets up with Toko and Taki. They greet her warmly, but Tsuyu seems a bit reserved. She quickly notices someone is missing and asks if Chai isn't coming. Toko explains that Chai had something unavoidable to do. Taki and Toko begin whispering to each other, speculating if a boy is involved, which leaves Tsuyu looking on in confusion. Tsuyu questions what they're talking about, but Toko quickly dismisses her concern, and Taki suggests they get started with their day. As they walk through the shopping center, Toko and Taki chat excitedly about swimsuits and what to bring to the beach. Taki turns to ask a quiet Tsuyu what she wants to do, but gets no response. When she calls her name, a startled Tsuyu apologizes, admitting she wasn't listening. Taki correctly guesses that she's worried about Chai. Flustered Tsuyu denies it, but her friends can see right through her, thinking to themselves how easy she is to read. Her friends gently tease her, saying she's just sad Chai isn't there. While trying to protest, a distracted Tsuyu trips. She falls hard and her friends cry out her name in alarm. They rush to her side, asking if she's all right. Tsuyu insists she's fine. But as she sits up, they see she's clearly not fine. She's skinned her elbow. The sight of blood makes Taki collapse in shock, so Toko takes charge and helps Tsuyu to a nearby seat. Toko tells a grateful Tsuyu to wait while she and Taki go get bandages. As they leave, Taki is already panicking about what to buy while Toko tries to calm her down. Left alone, Tsuyu thinks to herself that it's not like Chai has to be with her all the time. She then remembers Chai's pained apology for having to cancel their plans and her promise to find the cutest swimsuit. Looking down at her hands, Tsuyu quietly calls herself a liar. In the store, Taki frets over the supplies, asking if 1 box of bandages is really enough. She continues to panic, trying to decide which of the 3 sizes to get for the wound. Toko calmly calls her a worrywart, but Taki imagines the worst, worrying about unseen injuries like broken bones. Toko reassures her that all they need is disinfectant and some bandages. Meanwhile, Chai and Yudo arrive at a hospital room to find their father laughing boisterously, teasing their idiotic-looking faces. He dramatically proclaims he's not dead yet because he's their dear daddy. Yudo angrily points out that they rushed over in 2.5 hours after hearing about a huge accident, only to find him looking fine. Their father seems confused, but Chai clarifies that breaking a leg is, in fact, a pretty big accident, which Yudo emphatically agrees with. Their father admits he's happy they came to visit, though Yudo retorts that he now regrets worrying. The father then asks Chai for a hug, but she bluntly tells him to shut up. Dejected, he tells Yudo that Chai must be in her rebellious phase, but Yudo says it's his own fault. This starts an argument between father and son about who is more uncool. The argument ends when Yudo simply offers his father a peeled apple. The commotion earns them a sharp rebuke from a nurse to be quiet. As her father apologizes, Chai sighs and looks out the window. She thinks to herself about how much she wanted to go shopping that day. Later, Tsuyu walks with her friends, her arm now bandaged. Taki asks if her wound is okay and Tsuyu thanks her. Taki tries to cheer her up, asking about the parfait she recommended, and Tsuyu confirms it was good. Her friends tease her about a picture they took of her eating it like a squirrel. To lift her spirits, they suggest they all go swimsuit hunting again next week, this time with Chai. As they reach the point where their paths diverge, Taki and Toko prepare to say goodbye. Taki notices Tsuyu still looks spaced out and asks if she's really fine. They offer to walk her home, but she declines, and they say their goodbyes. As she walks away, Taki and Toko watch with concern. Tsuyu arrives at her house and announces that she's home. Her mother greets her, asking if her phone battery died since she'd been trying to call. Tsuyu doesn't answer, and her parents wonder if something happened to her. She staggers toward her room. Once inside, memories of Chai's distressed face flash through her mind. Overwhelmed, she collapses face first onto her bed. She remains frozen on her bed for a moment. Lying there, still in her day clothes, she feels a dull ache in her head, the day's events having taken their toll. At school, Chai is frantic with worry, shouting for Tsuyu. Her friends, Toko and Taki, inform her that Tsuyu wasn't feeling well yesterday and is out with a cold. This is news to the distraught Chai, who imagines Tsuyu crying from loneliness. She resolves to visit her immediately after school, a plan her friends recognize as an act of love. Meanwhile, at home, Tsuyu checks her temperature, relieved that her fever has gone down a lot. She finds a note from her family telling her about the rice bowls, medicine, and pudding they left for her. Her stomach growls as she looks at the food on the table. Tsuyu sits down, ready to eat. Just as she's about to dig in, the doorbell rings, startling her. Outside, Chai stands with a bag of groceries, having second thoughts about what she brought. She recalls her friends telling her to take her time, wondering what they were grinning about. The door clicks open. Tsuyu is surprised to find Chai at her door. Chai looks at her with concern, asking if she is all right. Her concern quickly turns to anger. She scolds Tsuyu for being on her feet while sick, and Tsuyu meekly apologizes, explaining she had to get the door. Inside, Chai asks Tsuyu if she can eat some apples. Chai expresses how worried she was, and Tsuyu tells her the fever has come down. Chai adds that not getting a reply on Lime added to her worries. Tsuyu explains her phone battery died, which Chai had suspected. Chai explains that the same thing happened to her yesterday, so she assumed Tsuyu's phone was also out of battery. Changing the subject, she asks if Tsuyu managed to buy a good bathing suit. Tsuyu quietly admits she didn't buy one. Chai brightens, suggesting all four of them can go shopping together once the vacation starts. Tsuyu agrees, though she still seems down. Tsuyu calls out Chai's name to get her attention. She hesitantly begins to ask about the reason Chai couldn't come yesterday. Chai finishes her thought, asking if Tsuyu is wondering if she was with Itsuki. Chai is confused by the question and flatly denies it. She explains that she hadn't told Tsuyu yet, but they got news that her dad was injured at work. As Chai continues explaining how she and her brother rushed to the hospital, she doesn't notice Tsuyu start to wobble. Suddenly Tsuyu collapses, and a panicked Chai shouts her name. Chai rushes to Tsuyu's side, placing her in bed and holding her hand. Tsuyu breathes heavily, still unconscious. Chai watches over her with a concerned expression. She worries that her own absence might have been the reason for Tsuyu's collapse. She is still puzzled as to why Tsuyu would think she was with Itsuki. Tsuyu stirs dazed and asks if Chai is there. Chai is relieved she's awake, telling her she gave her a scare. But Tsuyu, in her feverish state, suddenly calls her an idiot. She begins to ramble, telling Chai to go play with Itsuki instead, her words clearly clouded by the fever. Tsuyu continues her delirious confession, talking about how cool Itsuki is and how Chai seemed to have fun with her. She tells Chai that she knows she loves Itsuki. She grips the sheets tightly. With tears in her eyes, she admits her deepest insecurity. She wants to be Chai's number one. Chai is stunned for a moment by the confession. She then enthusiastically declares that, of course, Tsuyu is her number one. Her friend immediately passes out from the emotional release, and Chai yells at her not to fall asleep. Chai gently tucks her in, muttering that she won't get better if she doesn't stay covered. She smiles down at her sleeping friend. She softly tells Tsuyu that she really needs to be more honest with herself. The next morning, Tsuyu wakes up, and her mother informs her that Chai has already left. She finds her phone on the table. She says she has a voice message. She is startled by Chai's loud, wakey-wakey message. In the message, Chai tells her to rest up so they can go to the beach during vacation. She also sees a text message from Chai, reaffirming that Tsuyu will always be her number one and that she'll pamper her. Tsuyu tries to recollect the events of the previous evening. However, she finds she can't quite remember what happened. She looks at her phone with a warm, blushing smile. Her mother's voice calls out, asking if she is ready for lunch. Tsuyu sends a reply to Chai, telling her, "You're my number one too." The group finally arrives, and Chai shouts with excitement at the sight of the beach. Chai bolts for the ocean, but Yuyudo yells at her to change into her swimsuit first. She boasts that she's already wearing it, but Yuyudo insists she use the changing rooms like everyone else. As Toko rallies the girls to go change, Yuyudo sighs, already feeling exhausted. Itsuki cheerfully tells Yuyudo that she's going to grab a spot for them. Yuyudo, surprised, asks what she is doing here. She slams her hand down and declares that she couldn't possibly leave her sisters in his care alone. Meanwhile, Chai emerges from the changing rooms, followed by her friends. Tsuyu zips up her hoodie and the group heads out to the beach. As the girls walk along the beach, Chai asks Tsuyu if her hand is alright now and is glad to hear that it has healed. Chai then recalls a time she got hurt and went into the water anyway. She remembers the excruciating pain with a terrified expression, while Taki dryly remarks that she was just being stupid. Toko asks why two of them are wearing vests over their swimsuits. One of the girls explains it's because her skin is weak to the sun. Tsuyu, however, is simply too embarrassed to say why she's wearing one. Chai, trying to keep the energy up, decides that sounds good enough for her. She rallies everyone to go play, and Taki agrees enthusiastically. Yuyudo finds a good spot for them, but Itsuki tries to get his attention. She points out another woman on the beach, prompting an annoyed Yuyudo to tell her to get to work. Itsuki then spots the girls approaching their location. Chai happily announces that they're all dressed and ready to go. The girls thank Yuyudo for saving them a spot, and Itsuki compliments how cute they all look. Yuyudo asks if they want to play some beach volleyball. However, both he and Itsuki decide to pass on playing, opting to watch the luggage instead. Chai is disappointed they won't join, but Itsuki says she might play later if she feels like it. As Chai and her friends head towards the water, Yuyudo tells them to try and stay close. Itsuki turns to Yuyudo with a knowing look. She teases him, saying he's trying to act cool. Flustered, Yuyudo chokes on his drink and denies it, but Itsuki says she hit the bullseye. She mimics his earlier words, asking if he just wanted to be the big bro. He quietly admits that he just wants to be a cool big brother, at least in Chai's eyes. Itsuki's comment about him being a cool big brother makes Yuyudo panic, and he begs her not to tell Chai. She looks at him with a gentle smile and reaffirms that he truly is the big brother. A beach ball is tossed towards Tsuyu, but it bonks her right on the head. Her friends ask if she's alright, with Chai laughing and calling her a klutz. They then notice the ball is being carried away by the waves. Tsuyu volunteers to retrieve it, and Chai reminds her to be careful. Tsuyu retrieves the ball from the water, a slight smile on her face. She turns back towards the shore, thinking about everyone. Her expression becomes more thoughtful as she looks back. She sees Yuyudo and Itsuki laughing together under the parasol. The others wonder why Tsuyu is taking so long to come back. Taki spots her standing alone in the water, just holding the ball. Confused about what's wrong, Chai announces she's going to check on her. She wades into the water, calling out to Tsuyu and asking what's wrong. Tsuyu doesn't respond, her gaze fixed on something in the distance. Chai watches her friend stand silently in the water. She follows Tsuyu's gaze and sees her looking at Yuyudo and Itsuki. A light bulb goes off in Chai's head. She realizes what's happening could be jealousy. With newfound determination, Chai tells a confused Tsuyu to leave this to her. That morning, as they were preparing to leave for the beach, Yuyudo did a final check with Chai to make sure she hadn't forgotten anything. Itsuki appeared curious about where they were headed and learned they were going to the beach to babysit Chai and her friends. Excited by the news, Itsuki immediately declared she was coming too and rushed to get ready, leaving a surprised Yuyudo and Chai behind. Chai dashes over to her brother Yuyudo with Tsuyu in tow, asking for something to drink. Yuyudo asks what they'd like, and Chai chooses a sports drink for herself, then turns to ask Tsuyu for her choice. Tsuyu quietly requests water. While Yuyudo hands out the drinks, Itsuki remarks how nice the sunny weather is, and Chai agrees enthusiastically. Itsuki notes the intensity of the sun, asking Chai if she's alright. Chai replies that she's fine as Tsuyu takes a gulp of her water. Itsuki brings up a memory of Chai crying from a sunburn, much to Chai's annoyance. Chai insists that won't happen again since she's wearing sunscreen, while Itsuki playfully wishes her well. After drinking so much in the heat, the group realizes they're almost out of beverages, and Yuyudo decides they need to restock. A light bulb goes off in Chai's head. Chai quickly makes an excuse to get out of the errand, declaring she'll leave it to her brother. Yuudo protests, but she's already running off. Chai announces her plan. She and Itsuki will stay, so Tsuyu has to go with Yuudo. A resigned Yuudo and a surprised Tsuyu are left to process this. Tsuyu calls out to Chai, who explains that since the older teens are their guardians, it can't be helped. Chai drags a protesting Itsuki away, yelling that she's leaving things to Yuudo and Tsuyu. With a wink and a thumbs up, Chai encourages a nervous Tsuyu to do her best. An awkward silence falls between Yuudo and Tsuyu, who are both frozen in place. Yuudo stammers, trying to start a conversation. Tsuyu takes the initiative, looking at him and asking if they should go, which startles Yuudo. Meanwhile, Chai and Itsuki spy from behind a sign, with Chai excitedly declaring her plan a success. The scene shifts to a busy beach shack called House of the Sea. A co-worker tells the shop clerk that she's taking a break and asks her to cover the counter. The clerk sighs wearily. Surrounded by a gloomy aura, she thinks to herself that she wants to quit. She mentally lists her grievances, from being worked half to death to dealing with difficult customers and a scolding owner. Yuudo and Tsuyu arrive at the shop. Yuudo asks the clerk for a basket, and she thinks they must be siblings based on their ages. He places the drinks in the basket and tells the clerk he'll take them. The clerk rings them up at the counter. As she works, the clerk glances at Tsuyu and thinks she's very cute. The clerk tells Yuudo the total and asks if he needs a bag, which he declines. She hands him his change and items. Yuudo thanks the clerk for her help and tells Tsuyu they can leave now. After they leave, Tsuyu looks down at her hand, where she's holding a small beaded bracelet that came with the change. The clerk watches them go, thinking they seem like a nice pair and feeling her spirits lift. Yuudo points out a bracelet, asking Tsuyu if they should buy one, but she shyly declines. Yuudo looks at her for a moment, noticing her flustered expression. He accepts her answer and says they should get going now that they have the drinks. The clerk feels rejuvenated, thinking that seeing the nice siblings was a sight for sore eyes. Just then she sees two people in strange disguises sneaking up to her shop, following the path Yuudo and Tsuyu just took. Her suspicion is immediately raised. Wondering what they're up to, she decides to confront the two suspicious individuals. Itsuki, still in disguise, turns the tables and accuses the clerk of being suspicious. Chai panics, trying to assure the clerk, who is reaching for a phone, that it's all just a game. The clerk dryly questions if stalking is a game now. Yuudo reappears, drawn by the commotion. Chai and Itsuki call out to him in relief, while the clerk recognizes him from before. Yuudo demands to know what they're up to. Chai begs him to tell the clerk that they're innocent. The clerk explains that it looked like the two were stalking him, prompting Yuudo to demand an explanation from his sister and her friend, who sheepishly avoid his gaze. Yuudo sighs in exasperation. He explains to the clerk that the two are with him and apologizes for the trouble. The clerk expresses her relief. As he turns to go, he notices Tsuyu has returned and asks her why she came back. Tsuyu looks at him quietly. She says, "I'm back," and reaches out, taking his hand in hers. Blushing, she tells him they should get going, leaving Yuudo completely flustered. Back with the others, Chai grins mischievously at Tsuyu and asks what happened. Tsuyu can only stare back, silently begging for mercy. Tsuyu asks where Yuudo went, and Chai quickly lies, claiming he forgot to buy something and sent them to retrieve her. Meanwhile, Taki and Toko are floating lazily in the water, wondering where the other two have gone. Taki tries to start a game of Shiratori to pass the time, but Toko isn't interested. Taki pivots to ask Toko what she thinks of Chai's brother. Toko agrees that he seems very kind and that she can understand why Tsuyu likes him, adding that they look good together. As Taki drifts, she briefly thinks about the strange woman from the shop. Suddenly, she slips under the water with a splash. A worried Toko calls her name into the silence. Toko asks what she was doing as Taki resurfaces. Sputtering and coughing, Taki explains that she got a leg cramp. Toko sighs, telling her to be more careful. Just then, Chai calls out to them from the beach. When Toko and a weary Taki return, Chai and Itsuki greet them, explaining they went to buy more drinks since they were running low. Chai asks what they've prepared for lunch, but Itsuki cuts in, saying they haven't been told about their plans yet. With a flourish, Itsuki reveals several containers of food. She announces that the four of them had already prepared a simple lunch. Overjoyed at the sight of the food and the fact that there are seconds, she gets emotional. She tearfully proclaims that she can now rest in peace, much to everyone's confusion. Taki simply concludes that she is a weird lady. Yuudo returns, asking about the commotion. The girls welcome him back. Itsuki dramatically shows him the meal, calling it a wonderful feast. When Yuudo gives a simple reply, she demands to know why he isn't more moved, insisting that the food is an expression of love. Yuudo asks Itsuki if she bought something, but she explains she just went back for some water. With everything ready, the group begins to eat. Tsuyu quietly takes a bite of a rice ball, a look of contentment on her face. Taki thinks to herself that she looks like a squirrel. Itsuki loudly exclaims how delicious the food is. Yuudo asks why she's being so dramatic. She asks if they also made the fried chicken, and Chai confirms they did. Chai explains they prepared everything the day before. Hearing everyone's praise, Tsuyu quietly says she's glad they think it tastes good. Itsuki declares that she wouldn't mind having food like this every day, looking pointedly at Yuudo. He gives a vague agreement. The thought of having it every day causes Tsuyu to blush deeply. The other girls immediately notice her reaction with glee. After they finish eating, they thank everyone for the meal. Tsuyu sighs full and happy, commenting on how great the food was. Chai then suggests they get some shaved ice. The idea excites the others, though they worry about their allowances. Seizing the moment, Itsuki proudly announces that it's her turn to shine and offers to treat everyone. The group is thrilled by the offer, but Yuudo is hesitant. Itsuki explains that she has a part-time job and wants to treat them as thanks for the lunch. She then jokes that Yuudo will have to pay for his own since he also works. Soon they're presented with enormous sparkling bowls of shaved ice, ready to dig in. The girls are ecstatic, with Chai exclaiming how good it is as Taki asks Toko for a bite. As they eat, Itsuki feels healed just watching them, even recording the moment on her phone. Yuudo warns Chai not to eat too much at once. She ignores him and immediately gets a painful brain freeze, crying out in pain. Yuudo can only sigh, having already warned her. After recovering from her brain freeze, Chai is still reeling. Taki points out that her tongue has turned blue. This sparks a game of comparing their syrup-stained tongues, with Taki's being green and Toko's orange. Chai asks Tsuyu to show hers, revealing it to be completely red. She shyly asks if this is right. Her cuteness is so overwhelming that Itsuki declares she can't take much more, while Yuudo just asks if she's all right. One of her friends asks why she's still wearing her jacket. The girls gather around, wanting to know what's up, pointing out they haven't seen her in her swimsuit yet. Blushing, Tsuyu quietly admits that it's just too embarrassing. Chai tries to coax her, saying they picked a really cute one and that she won't force her. She then reminds Tsuyu that the whole point was for Aniki to see it. Tsuyu acknowledges this but remains hesitant and flustered. Chai teasingly calls Tsuyu shy and decides she's going to get a peek anyway. Tsuyu protests, telling her to wait, but Chai reassures her that it's fine. Yuudo announces his return, but stops short when he sees the scene. He asks what happened, to which Chai replies that something precious was at stake. Yuudo tells the group they are wrapping things up so the girls can go get changed. The group starts to walk off the beach. Yuudo turns to blushing Tsuyu and asks if something is wrong. Her mind flashes back to Chai's comment about picking the swimsuit for Aniki. She stammers, trying to find the words. Just as she's about to speak, Yuudo's phone starts ringing. He asks to take the call, and she quietly tells him yes. While the others pack up, Yuudo takes his phone call. He finishes his call and apologizes, asking Tsuyu what she wanted to say. She loses her courage and tells him it was nothing, as he suggests she go change now. Tsuyu quietly agrees to go change. Watching from afar, Chai laments that it was too early for Tsuyu and resolves to lecture her brother later. One of the girls finds a free stall, while another complains that Chai and Tsuyu are slow. Taki tells the others they'll wait at the shop next door. Chai tells Tsuyu she can go ahead into the shower. Tsuyu begins to take off her hoodie. With her hoodie halfway off, she reveals her swimsuit underneath. The shower runs, washing away the sand. Looking dejected, Tsuyu finishes taking off her hoodie. Tsuyu sits by herself on a bench, looking dejected. She wonders to herself if she's feeling down. Chai appears, greeting her with a cheerful yo. Tsuyu notes how fast Chai changed. Chai asks if she's upset about what happened before. Tsuyu quietly confirms that she is. Chai summarizes that Tsuyu went to the beach with her crush, but wimped out before she could show him the swimsuit they all picked out. She asks if that's about right, and Tsuyu can only groan in response. Chai proudly calls herself a Tsuyu expert, which surprises Tsuyu. Chai says that's why she's so sure about what's bothering her. Chai kneels and gently takes Tsuyu's hand, telling her she'll be all right. She says that even though things didn't go as planned, Tsuyu has definitely grown. She advises Tsuyu that she can save up her courage to act on another day. With a wide, encouraging grin, Chai asks if she understands. Feeling better, Tsuyu agrees with a gentle smile. Chai smiles back, happy to have cheered her up. She takes Tsuyu's hand and says they should go, since the other two are waiting. As they leave, Tsuyu quietly thanks Chai for her kindness. As their day together comes to an end, the group says their goodbyes at the station. Taki announces that she, Itsuki and Toko will head home together. Chai playfully nudges her brother, telling him to take Tsuyu home. Chai explains that since they all live in different directions, this arrangement is better, and Yuyudo agrees to leave the others with Itsuki. Chai whispers a final word of encouragement to a blushing Tsuyu, telling her she's leaving the rest to her. Tsuyu watches them go with a small, happy smile. The rest of the group says their goodbyes and heads off. Now alone, Yuyudo and Tsuyu begin their walk home. As they walk, Yuyudo remembers taking Tsuyu home once before. He notes that she seems a little better at communicating now. At a crosswalk, he confirms their direction, and she nods in agreement. He tries to break the silence by asking if she had fun, and she nods enthusiastically. Despite his effort, an awkward pause follows. Yuyudo feels like he's back at square one, unsure how to proceed with the conversation. Tsuyu nervously clenches her fist, mustering her courage. She begins to speak, catching him by surprise. She stammers out that she wanted to thank him very much for the day. Her formal thanks catches Yuyudo off guard. He can't help but burst out laughing. He quickly apologizes, explaining he just found it a little funny. He tells her she doesn't need to be so tense, which leaves her flustered. After she apologizes, he adds that he understands it must be difficult dealing with a friend's older brother. Yuyudo continues, sincerely telling Tsuyu that he wants to get along with her better and hopes they can talk more normally. As they arrive at her house, he remembers something and presents her with a small gift. Alone in her room, Tsuyu sits on her bed. She looks down at the gift in her hands, wondering what it is. He explains the gift is a bracelet, a thank you for the one she made for him, since he couldn't give her anything in return back then. He smiles warmly and thanks her again. Overwhelmed and touched, Tsuyu holds the bracelet at a loss for words. She manages to whisper another heartfelt thank you. Alone, she smiles warmly, cherishing the gift. A voice from downstairs calls out that dinner is ready. She places the bracelet carefully on her desk. Chai greets her best friend Tsuyu on the way to school, thinking to herself how cute she is. She recalls how Tsuyu is an introvert who doesn't talk much, but is still very kind. Chai also notes that Tsuyu is very studious, as shown by her good grades. Even though Tsuyu can be clumsy and isn't good at sports, Chai believes that just makes her even cuter. A teacher instructs Class C on their task for the day, weeding a designated area. As Chai listens to other students complaining about the heat and the chore, she looks over at her friend. She sees Tsuyu totally absorbed in the work, diligently pulling up weeds. Chai watches her friend's serious expression as she works. Curious, Chai asks Tsuyu if she's having fun, and Tsuyu confirms that she is. Chai asks Tsuyu if she actually likes this kind of work, and Tsuyu replies with a simple maybe. Exasperated by the heat, Chai declares she can't take any more and leaves the rest to Tsuyu, who tells her to stop complaining. Chai decides to get a drink of water, and Tsuyu agrees. The cool water is refreshing and hits the spot. As she prepares to bring a wet towel back for Tsuyu, she overhears someone nearby. She hears a boy exclaim that Amiya-san is really cute, and realizes they are talking about Tsuyu. One of the boys says that since Tsuyu doesn't talk much, it's hard to know what she's thinking, but his friend insists that's what makes her cute. The conversation escalates as one dares the other to confess if he likes her so much, calling him a coward. The boy defensively yells that he is not a coward, and Chai overhears the entire exchange, pondering their words. Sometime later, as school ends and they walk home, Chai notices something and asks Tsuyu why she isn't wearing the bracelet. Chai tells Tsuyu she should just wear it, but Tsuyu seems hesitant. Tsuyu explains with a slight smile that she thinks wearing it would be a waste. Chai is confused by this answer, admitting she doesn't quite get it. Sensing her friend's odd mood, Chai asks if something is wrong. Inside a bookstore, Chai spots her older brother, Yuyudo. She greets him and Tsuyu, then playfully asks if he is looking for dirty books, but he clarifies they are reference books. Yuyudo gives a warm greeting to Tsuyu, who shyly returns it. Chai notices Tsuyu blushing and whispers encouragement for her to go talk to him. Yuyudo tries to make small talk, asking Tsuyu if she enjoys school, to which she simply nods. The boy's earlier words echo in Chai's mind that Tsuyu doesn't talk much and her quietness is what makes her cute. Chai reflects on their comment about never knowing what Tsuyu is thinking, now seeing the situation in a new light. Looking at her friend's blushing face, Chai thinks to herself that Tsuyu is actually very easy to rid. She suddenly grabs Tsuyu and demands that her brother treat them to ice cream, much to his confusion. Chai's plan works perfectly. She proudly enjoys the Papico ice cream she made her brother buy them, while Tsuyu happily eats hers. A slightly defeated Yudo stands by, having been successfully roped into paying. The doorbell rings, and Chai excitedly announces that Tsuyu is here. Tsuyu stands shyly in the entryway, thanking them for the invitation. Yudo reminds Tsuyu that she's here to work on her homework, though she's mainly helping Chai. Ignoring him, Chai eagerly presents a collection of video games, ready to play. Chai argues that all work and no play isn't good, but Yudo retorts that she's all play. She proudly declares she's finished at least half her homework, which Yudo points out isn't much. When asked how much they've done, Yudo says he's finished all of his, while Tsuyu only has her science project left. Giving up on the argument, Chai decides she doesn't care and urges Tsuyu to play with her. With chores done, Chai triumphantly holds up a movie, declaring it's time to watch. While Chai is excited, Tsuyu and Yudo are less than enthusiastic. Yudo brings up the forgotten homework, but Chai pretends not to hear him. She announces their movie for the night is a horror film, causing Tsuyu to freeze in place. Tsuyu begs not to watch, but Chai coldly asks if her teary-eyed expression will really change her mind. A horde of zombies appears on the screen, startling the viewers. Chai is fascinated, while Tsuyu flinches away, hiding her face in terror. Chai excitedly tries to get the shaking Tsuyu to watch the scary scene. Yudo watches them, thinking that even though he chose a scary movie, it doesn't seem to be working on Chai. Yudo gently taps Tsuyu, asking if she's all right. With tears in her eyes, she sniffs and quietly insists that she's fine. While Chai enthusiastically cheers on the movie's heroes, Yudo looks on with concern. The movie's credits roll as Chai lets out a sigh of relief. She declares the movie was good, while a trembling Tsuyu clings tightly to her arm. Yudo observes Tsuyu's reaction, thinking to himself that Chai is an idiot for forcing her to watch something she knew would scare her. He suggests they go to bed now and wake up later for stargazing. Yudo says he'll wake them later, and Chai thanks him as he wishes them a good night. Just as he's about to leave, Tsuyu timidly asks if he would sleep with them. Both Chai and Yudo are shocked by the sudden and seemingly inappropriate request. Tsuyu explains that she's still scared of the zombies and doesn't think the two of them could win in a fight. Relieved, Yudo agrees to stay until they're both asleep. He smiles as he watches them settle down for the night. With Chai already fast asleep, Tsuyu holds her hand and wishes Yudo a good night.